Does agriculture make climate change worse or better? There's no simple answer to that question. No matter how sustainable they are, all farms emit some greenhouse gases, either from tractors being driven, from land being tilled, or from animals converting grass into meat. Soil, however, can be a great place to store carbon and could maybe help soak up some of the greenhouse gases we emit elsewhere. But the fact of the matter is we have to eat, and therefore we have to farm. So finding a balance between agriculture emissions and sequestration is incredibly important.
The more carbon you have in the ground, the more resilient you're going to be, because that implies a higher functioning, optimal ecosystem processes.
That's Maurice Robinette, a cattle rancher just outside Spokane, Washington. He raises 100% grass-fed organic beef with his daughter Beth. They've been thinking a lot about the question of carbon emissions and sequestration, and it's changed the whole way they run their operation.
So much of what we do here is about how to create maximum functioning ecosystems in our pasture. And to me, that's what resiliency is. If you have an ecosystem that's at peak function, it can take a lot more damage or uncertainty than an ecosystem that is not at peak function. That's about the sum of what we're trying to do here, is to, grow grass that'll keep growing.
Many studies have shown that the deep perennial roots in diverse pastures can sequester lots of carbon. They also use water very efficiently. And that's important because the Lazy R Ranch sits in eastern Washington, where average rainfall totals are only about 16 inches. That's half of what farmers get in the upper Midwest. Not only do perennial plants require less water, they're also better sponges during heavy downpours. According to a study on the impacts of climate change in eastern Washington, that region will likely see big changes in precipitation over the next decades. But whether that means floods or droughts isn't yet clear.
So you have a choice of, do you want to enhance soil fertility, do you want to enhance animal performance, or the ecosystem processes? We lean more towards enhancing ecosystems than animal performance. We're not as concerned what our weaning weights are. We're more concerned about water retention, deep root systems, and carbon in the ground.
The Robinettes are the first to admit that managing for carbon isn't something everyone can afford.
Well, one of the reasons that we can do that is because we direct market and we get a premium price, so it offsets the economic cost.
Because when you're just looking at selling pounds of beef, then, you do care how many, if they're that extra half pound a day turns out to be a lot of money.
And if we're doing everything right in the long run, our enhanced ecosystems will generate more beef, which will generate more dollars.
Our federal agriculture policies have been designed in most cases to encourage maximum production, whether that means bushels of corn or pounds of beef. And even though grain prices are very high right now, they might not always be. Because of the way markets work, farmers will sooner or later be faced again with grain prices that barely cover production costs. It's really hard to manage for carbon or to make changes to your farm system that might make you more adaptable when you're barely breaking even.
We have the luxury of being able to afford the long view. We're very much 50-year oriented or 100-year oriented.
There are ways to get all farmers to a place where they can make long-term choices around climate change like the Robinettes. But to do so, we'll need to put more resources toward programs that encourage farmers to plant perennials and to use less energy on the farm. We'll need a supply management system, something like a grain reserve that could buy up excesses when we have bumper crops and then put some of that grain back on the market in lean years. That would help keep prices more level. Most of all, we need to make climate change and long-range thinking a priority when we design farm policies.